Hello and welcome to the Stubzcast. The Stubzcast, the content creator podcast where I talk to many content creators from the gaming industry and YouTube and podcast verse, where we share tips and tricks, stories, how they got into content creation, and hopefully somewhere along the line people learn something. If you want a cool gamer picture or overlay, the graphic god will sort you out at www.xboxgamerpics.com. This week this is actually the PS to Trophy Room Part 2. Mr. K Step is the co-host of the best PlayStation podcast, that is the PS Trophy Room. And he's also the co-founder of indie games website SIXONEINDIE. How are you doing, Mr. K Step?
Oh, I love that intro. I'm doing great. I love the emphasis on best PlayStation podcast. I love it.
I listened to two, by the way. I have to clarify. I listened to Sacred Symbols and you. But I'm a patron of Last Stand Media as well. But you are my favorite.
Hey, I'll take it. That's a big win.
It is. So you're doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing well. A bit of a rainy day here in Long Island, New York. But yeah, doing fantastic.
Good. It's been a bit of rain here as well, but it's no surprise in England. We always get rain.
That's what I've heard. Never been, but yeah, that's usually one of the things that I hear about it.
Yeah, we love rain. Not. But we will moan if it's too hot. That's the thing, and we moan when it's too rainy.
To be honest, anyone that loves being hot and warm weather, I think there's a screw loose. I don't understand it. I just don't.
Well, there's warm, and then there's sweating. You go in bed, and you know it's really bad. But in America, you guys are more versed for it because I could be wrong. Most houses have air conditioning. Yeah, all year round.
I guess most, yeah. Not my house. We only have like in window ones just for our bedrooms for the summertime.
Wow.
But yeah, that is the thing. Is that a thing that the UK just doesn't?
No, we don't do that unless.
Oh wow!
You know we have the old. You know the fans you turn on. You can buy them. You can buy proper air conditioning. But in America, it's more of a standardized part of the building process for some houses.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair.
It's not a thing here, but when the heat goes up in the summer, everyone rushes out and buys all the fans and whatever they can get hold of.
Wow,
they do. But yeah, when we eventually get heat, that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously had Mr. Badbit on, your co-host from the PS Trophy Room.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah. Mr. Bad Take. No, I'm joking. That's
you heard that joke.
That's Luke Law's favorite name thing.
Yeah. God, that rivalry is awesome.
I hear it all the time on Cast Co-op. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Good show as well. But yes, so when was your gaming history? But was it back when you were a child? You started gaming? Was that your first experiences of it?
I forgot what age it was, but I remember going to my aunt and uncle's house, who we're not huge fans of now. My family, they're definitely the parts of the family who like to flaunt their wealth and like think they're better than you, kind of thing. And we were over their house when I was younger, and they had a original Nintendo NES. And I was playing it, and my uncle, thinking like, he was super cool and trying to impress me as a young kid, was like, you know what, you like it, just take it home. And he just gave us the Nintendo.
Really? And wow,
I was just like, okay, great.
I feel like it that much, just take it.
I know, exactly. And we had it hooked up.
What else you got? Okay, what else you got?
Yeah, yeah, right. Can I have your car? I mean, I'm only 4, but like, I'll take it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we hooked it up in the living room, and I think maybe a day or two later, I woke up in the morning. I was coming downstairs to the noise of my mom sitting in front of the TV, screaming and cursing at the TV, trying to save Princess Peach in the original Mario. And that is so ingrained in my brain that is the reason why I love games, is because my mom was so into it. And ever since then, it's just been like such a core part of what I do on a daily basis.
That's
moved
a
away
fun
from
story.
Nintendo like when I was older and became a PlayStation person straight from PS1 until today.
Yeah, now that's a really fun story. I've never heard of many stories where people can say their mum, they've come downstairs and their mum was playing the console. I mean, my dad back in the day used to buy us a console.
Oh,
Like
nice.
the Sega Mega Drive. You probably you call it Sega Genesis in
Yes.
America, but my dad actually used to buy us consoles for Christmas and stuff. And then you remember back in the day where you could take your TV downstairs, but they're quite heavy. And my dad used to make us bring the console downstairs so he could play it while we go to bed.
That's
Things
awesome.
like that.
Yeah. The only console I was bought, or the first one, other than the Nintendo gifting from my uncle, I got a PlayStation 1 for Christmas. The year I believe it came out 96, 97, one of those. And that was the first one that I was gifted from my family, other than a Game Boy. Game Boy, I remember the yellow banana color Game Boy.
I think I had that one, and I think I had the white one. When
that
Tetris
was the first
thing.
Yeah. Oh my God, Tetris. Absolutely. But before that moment, the N64, the PlayStation before I owned it, Virtual Boy, we would all go to the local video rental place and rent out the system and bring them home, and that's how I got to play games. That wasn't NES.
That's nice. I haven't heard you say you've had Sega. I've not heard you say Sega.
Sega, no. I was not a Sega kid.
I think you're about the first one I've had so far.
Oh, yeah?
That is not a Sega kid so far.
I have zero attachment. I've played some of the games. Big fan of Shining Force, but I played that on my PC way back in the day. I think we had a floppy disk version of it. But yeah, I think maybe I played Genesis at friends' houses, but it wasn't for a long time. I think Mortal Kombat was the most played game on the Genesis for me.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah. So no, that's interesting to hear, because I'm not saying everyone's been a Sega guy.
Sure, yeah.
That's been on, but the vast majority. But no, that's good to hear. That is, and welcome to the Indie Gamer Inside, and Masuku. Thanks for stopping in.
Welcome.
So obviously you're more of a Nintendo. You were more of a Nintendo kid. What would you? So if you were to say you were to rate your games from the retro days, what would you say your favorite retro style game was? Not from back in the day. I don't mean now.
So a game from back in the day, or a current retro game from now? Like a retro style game now, or back in the day one?
Oh, the problem is your view changes, doesn't it? If you think about from back then, and if you think now, it could be different.
Yeah.
So I'd say, what was your favorite game from back then?
Sure. Always a huge fan of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on NES.
Nice.
Nice. That is one, like you mentioned, it's odd to hear your mom kind of got you into gaming. That's the one that
cool. I love that story.
Yeah,
I love
that. That's Punch-Out's a game me and my dad would sit down and take turns trying to beat the boxers. He got to Mike Tyson at the end, or Mr. Dream, I believe is what he is in other places. Never beat him. Never could. But that music and Punch-Out is ingrained in my brain. That is such a good soundtrack for that game. I love that. I love it's not a exciting or famous game. I believe it's called Thrilla's Safari. It was you were a gorilla on a surfboard or a skateboard, and it was just a very basic platformer. And I played that game so much, and of course Tetris and stuff like that.
Well, no, you like what you like. If that's what you have to say the most obvious names, but obviously,
for sure.
The game was saying, there's loads of Nintendo people out there. Is that Nintendo's, from what I gather, has got if you go throughout the years, I think technically Nintendo is the biggest out of them all. Really.
Yeah, for sure.
But people discard that, they do, because all Xbox and PlayStation. But technically, if you look at the stats and numbers, Nintendo are actually the biggest.
Yeah.
But people, it's a kid system. They're all systems are games for all ages. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now.
For sure.
You don't have to play Mario just because you have Nintendo. You don't.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think in those in between years where I didn't have a PlayStation, I don't know what it's like or what it was like or what it currently is like in the UK, but arcades hold a very special place in my heart. That's like birthday parties I would go, and there were just arcade cabs everywhere, and just spend most of my tokens on NBA Jam, which is another favorite of mine. Or
yeah, that was a very good game. That
yeah,
was.
Or like the X-Men arcade game is like the pinnacle to me of like arcade cabinets.
Yeah, it was quite a big thing in America. I mean, where I live, you see, going to arcades as a kid would never have been a thing because I live in like a rural, very small county.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I live in the smallest county in England.
Oh wow!
So that kind of thing was. I mean, you could probably speak to some other gamers that probably live in more cities. They might have, in like London, it probably was quite a big thing, but it's something I've got no experience in. I've been to arcades at the seaside, but the games ain't what they were obviously back then.
Absolutely, yeah.
But no, so what was your favorite game at the arcade? Would you say it was it?
Yeah. It was probably NBA Jam or the X-Men, beat 'em up side scroller thing. Also huge shout out of any game that had a light gun attached to it, like Time Cop or like Area 51 or something like. Oh my god, but not Time Cop. Oh my god, Time Crisis. I thought of the movie Time Crisis.
Indie game was to play it. He said, "Yeah, X-Men and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of Mickey Mouse is a great arcade cab." So I'm guessing indie game has definitely been in the arcades more than me. I must sound like a country bumpkin because there was nothing like that when I was a kid. That's what I do sound like. Because
it's fine. Yeah. One day you'll get to experience an arcade in all its glory, I hope.
Well, I have technically. I mean, I went to.
That's fair.
I've been to EGX. They call it EGX in London, but when I went to it, was called Eurogamer, and they had like different floors. It started out being called Eurogamer, and I did play it. They had like arcade machines of. I'm pretty sure there was Tekken there and all sorts, but there was definitely some arcade ones to test out. But this was when Eurogamer was like new, and now EGX is quite a massive expo. It's far bigger than it was when I first went. But that's the kind of experience I've had in arcades. It's nothing to write home about. It's not.
Yeah, sure.
It's always good to hear American stories of arcades because there's so many arcades in America. It was quite a big thing. Is it still quite a big thing now in America?
It's actually kind of sad because they're not.
Okay.
I can think of the only ones that I can think of currently, and there are some smaller ones, just not anywhere near me. Like throughout the country, but barcades are a huge thing.
Arcades,
where it's just like a bar filled with arcades, and that's kind of like the norm now. When you think of an arcade cabinet, you think of like a barcade setting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
They're just too loud for me. They're just all the arcade machines going, different sounds, on top of like booming music because it's a bar and lots of people. It's very hard to focus and hear anything. Not a great place for a conversation.
No, it's not. I mean, I know Mr. Tushi done I don't know if you know him. He's in the Xbox community. He done a like UK Twitter meetup, and they went to Manchester, and it was kind of like what you say, like a barcade. You pay a price for the day, and all the arcade machines are included in that price. So it's obviously
that's nice.
You can get food, soft drinks, you can get alcohol, and all the machines are included in one price. So that's probably what you're on about a barcade. So there's a few of them now. Nice. There is.
Yeah, they're good. They're mostly a good time, especially if you go with like a good group of friends. Yeah, they're a great time.
Yeah, that's cool. That is. But yes, one thing I noticed on the what's it called with the PS Trophy Room, because I started listening to it because Mr. Boomstick started recommending it, and I listened to it for a while. I was like, because I'm not what you call, I do play the PlayStation, but I'm not like your hardcore PlayStation fan. But what I noticed about the show is you're very positive and obviously towards PlayStation, but you do talk about Xbox, and that's because I know Joe likes to talk about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you only talk about it in a positive light, or where you got a constructive criticism of something. That's not very often, but it's always in a more positive light, and that's what I like about the show, because you can listen to it and just have a laugh listening to it, even if you don't play the games you're talking about. It's just fun to listen to. It is.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. That's definitely something Joe and I are very keen on doing. And sure, there are moments where we joke about fanboys and like we act like fanboys every once in a while.
You have added something, guys. If you don't listen to the trophy, PS Trophy Room, guys, it's funny. There's a segment, not a segment, and they've got a soundboard or something.
Oh yeah,
and they're like reading off how Twitter sounds. It's like a little baby in a high pitched voice, and it is so funny.
Well, yeah, that just came out just because like I'm so tired of seeing it on Twitter and everywhere. Just like I firmly believe that we are so lucky to be living in the timeline where video games are a thing. And we should just be happy that we get to play games and enjoy the experiences that they give to us, no matter where you play. As long as you play a game, in my eyes, you're a gamer. There's no gatekeeping. I hate gatekeepers. They're like the single worst thing on the internet. I mean, there are definitely worse things. Let me take that back. In terms of like video game things, I hate people who like gatekeep fandoms because it's theirs, and God forbid somebody else new comes in and wants to experience it. It sucks. So yeah, on the trophy room, Joe and I, we got to make sure that we have to, just celebrate games, because games are awesome.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, because obviously I spoke to Joe in the last show, and the last when he was on, sorry, and I asked him. I said, the energy you two give off, I said to him, was as if you're two best friends sitting down having fun. And then I said to him, have you ever met? And I'm pretty sure he says, no, we haven't.
Oh, no, we've met.
Oh, you met? Yeah.
We met before we podcast. I met him once. We're both kind of funny best friends, and we're big fans of them.
Yeah, he did say that.
We met. I used to, not so much anymore, because the global condition or the pandemic is kind of put a squash on things. But I used to plan community events in New York City like every single month, and one of them Joe came out because he lives in Jersey. He's not that far away, and I met him, had a great time with him, and a month later or so, or a few weeks later, he hopped into like a big group chat we were all in. It was like, hey, my co-host for this PlayStation show is out. Does anybody want to hop on? And in my head, it's like, oh, this is my chance. I've always wanted to talk PlayStation on a show of some sort. And he had me on. And then I think the next week I went to PSX in 2017, and he had me back to talk about everything I played there. And 3+ years later, we're still going strong.
Yeah, no, that's it's really good. That it's what my memory was playing me up there. It was someone else I was speaking to. Sorry about that mistake. You had met before previously.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, no, it's an awful positive vibe you give off with the show, and it radiates, because obviously I listen to the show in the van a lot when I work by myself, and it's quite a funny show. It is, and it lightens up the day a lot of the time, and it's a very entertaining one. And I love the fact that you do cover Xbox and PlayStation, but obviously the main focus is on PlayStation.
Yeah, and like I will fully admit, the one console thing that gets way more jabs than it should probably is Nintendo. Banger! Yes, banger.
I hate that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hate that, I don't know.
We have to always say banger for Joe. Yeah, Nintendo gets a little bit more flack from us. just because they do some wild decisions over there.
Well, it's constructive criticism. You're not lying, are you?
Yeah, no,
you're not.
Except for like when we talk about Nintendo Labo, then we're like, oh boy, what a choice that was.
That's true. Yeah, but people bought it, didn't they?
Yeah, it's wild too. Yeah,
it just proves Nintendo can sell anything.
exactly.
They really can.
Yeah,
sell bits of cardboard, but they still bought it, didn't they?
They sure did.
So when you obviously started the podcast, was it like a learning phase? Like, what kind of software did you guys start up with? Because obviously, had you been on podcasts before? You both did that. Were you both experienced, or were you both completely new?
I know Joe was doing content creation before we started Trophy Room.
Yeah.
For me, I think I maybe have guessed it on maybe one or two before that point. I made it a point that year that I wanted to do more and get out there because growing up, I was a very shy and reserved kid, and would get like nervous, like talking in front of class and whatnot, and so I made it a point to step out of my comfort zone and do more talking, more public speaking, quote unquote.
Oh, that's nice.
And yeah, so I wanted to do more. And that first episode with Joe, I had a blue snowball mic that I picked up for like cheap. And I believe we did all our recording in Audacity, which is something we still do like as a backup kind of thing.
It's a good software.
As long as you don't get like the updated version, because there's some like weird spyware thing. So I don't know what version you should get, but you can Google it and find it.
I have got it on my computer, so
as long as it has updated it in like I think 6+ months ago, like before then you should be fine. I think.
I don't know.
But yeah,
showing up in the virus scan though. So it's
yeah, we did audio through that. I'm trying to remember what we did video wise. It might have just been Discord. I think we were always on Discord doing video so we can see each other, and it obviously grew from there. And yeah,
no, it's good to hear. I mean, well, when you first put your first podcast out, what was the general? Did you get a general consensus as if people liked it, or did you just keep knocking them out and people giving you reactions, or was it kind of like a pilot test when you first started it?
I think for Joe, it was a pilot test to find a co-host because his other co-host was moving or having a child, I believe, and she couldn't podcast anymore, so he's looking for a new co-host. I believe. Joe, you could yell at me later if I'm wrong, but for me, when that first episode went out, I saw it, I shared it, I was so excited, but I could not listen to it. I still can't listen to shows I do because I have a thing, like most people, who are afraid to hear their own voice and think that you sound weird. I'm constantly afraid that I sound dumb and stupid and not knowing what I'm talking about. Got like shaking on my boots that I made a mistake, like I with Time Cop and Time Crisis earlier. Luckily, I caught it, but I still haven't listened to those earlier ones. But yeah, as far as reception goes, it is something Joe will never say anything about it, but it took me a very long time when we started doing it like every single week. I would say probably well into like year 2 where I felt comfortable and felt like I was a part of the show. There's still moments where I'm like, people know Trophy Room for Joe, right? They come to hear Joe.
They come like to don't
no, I know. I'm saying what those early kind of thoughts were going through my head. Where people were coming for Joe on Twitter. They would always say like, great show, Joe has a great PlayStation show, and I never being like mentioned in the whole process kind of thing, and that really weighed on me until there was a point where I was like, you know what, just screw it. I'm doing what I love to do. I'm talking PlayStation with one of my best friends, Joe. Let's not worry about it. And then come to find out, all that was in my head. No one had a problem. It was just like social media just sucks in general for like self-esteem. So
it does. Exactly.
And now I'm super comfortable. People love the show, thank God, and people come back and listen and say nice things like you have, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, it is a good show, and well, put it this way: does Joe ever do an episode without you?
He has.
I don't think he does. He has. Yes,
he
but
has.
It's very rare. Very rare.
It's very rare. There have been times, and I don't know if you've run into this, where you record a show, you think you had a great show, and then since Joe does all the editing side of the thing, we record late at night, like I'm in bed because I have to go substitute teach the next day. Okay, and he texts me like, Kyle, the audio did not record. Can you do it? And obviously I'm sleeping. So then he re-records the whole show with somebody else.
Oh, okay.
There have been moments there, and like where either one of us has been sick or something. Like, yeah, there's been moments where it's not been us too.
I have listened to them episodes actually. Now you mention it, like the odd time he gets a guest in where you can't make it, but sometimes that may be because the audio messed up.
Yeah. Well, I think 90% of the time there, it's because the audio, video audio, something we've had to re-record.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, you are a valid and loved member of the podcast. Without you, it isn't really. It ain't the same. It's not. And I just want to tell Indie Gamer something, because he may not have made sense how I just went banger. If you haven't listened to the PS Trophy Room, Joe, Mr. Badbit, absolutely hates anyone writing in and mentioning the word PlayStation banger, any kind of banger of a game.
Yeah.
He hates it.
He will bleep it out with his new fancy bleep button.
It's funny to hear. It's a big part of the show now. He's made too much of a deal of it now. People go out their way to say banger.
If he just didn't mention it and kept it aside, I wouldn't be pestering with it all the time, or people in the community wouldn't. I think he's just tired of people using it when talking about certain games.
It is annoying because there's certain gamers that won't look at it like all they want to play is these big AAA, $billion, multi-million-dollar, but as they say, bangers.
Yeah.
When there's a whole spectrum of games from indie to AA, the whole spectrum. Really, they really should be just called. Well, they really are just all games. But some people only want to play the bangers, so-called bangers, anyway.
And the bangers are good. They're fun. They're a great time. But like indie games are where it's at for most of the time. I like to say, like, they're the lifeblood of video games. They keep everything afloat in between those big experiences.
That is very true. And the indie gamer, I can see his comments now. He's about to fully agree with you. He will. Yeah. Welcome, UK Dazarus. Thanks for stopping in. But yeah, it's an excellent show. I mean, your show is steadily growing and growing and growing. And the last show I was on with Mr. Badbit, I tried to get numbers out of him, what he does. Wouldn't tell me, but now on one of the shows, he announced a milestone. He said, we've had 200,000 downloads globally. And I was like, wow.
Wild,
I didn't know doing that well. It's insane. And you both really, really deserve it, because
thank you.
It's a really good show. It's just two passionate gamers enjoying what they do and talking games. So
yeah,
all the hard work you put in, and there's a lot with editing, back end. Loads goes into podcasting, and
I think I try to get Joe to share those milestones a little bit more, because that gives a boost to us more so than ever. It makes us want to keep going and do bigger and better things. But good. Like very, very early on, I'd be like, Joe, you should share like how many listens the last podcast did or whatever, like back when it was like in the hundreds. He was like, no, I don't want to do that. It's too like flashy or like too full of themselves kind of thing. I was like, I get that, but we got to celebrate our wins. because people like celebrating others and have that moment of being proud of a show that they listen to doing good things. So like, I'm trying to get him, and a little bit more or so. He's sharing a little bit more behind the curtain. So I love that. I love that.
It's good. I just think he's more. He obviously proud of his show. He doesn't want to come off as just a show off on Twitter because
Yeah, I get that.
his shows getting bigger and bigger. So that's maybe what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And welcome Jago Coogan, who says, "I love the trophy room. Joe and Kyle are great. It's the best and only PS centric podcast I listen to every week on Spotify."
Hey, thank you. That's awesome.
But no, it's where would you like where would you like the PS trophy room to be in the future? Would you just want to keep growing, or?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to keep going. I definitely wanted to keep growing, and more people listen. I think ideally, Joe and I want to be able to start covering the bigger games more effectively and efficiently. So like most gaming centric podcasts, they reach out for codes to play ahead of time for like reviews and whatnot. And this year's been better for the trophy room. We've been getting some bigger titles to play a little bit beforehand, but we haven't cracked into PlayStation itself. So like when a big PlayStation exclusive comes out, we usually get it the same time everybody else gets it, and then we have to rush through it so that way the next week we can talk about it. So I think something that we would love to push forward is getting our foot into that door of whoever is the person to reach out to on PlayStation, and have us be able to cover those bigger things more efficiently and take our time with it instead of rushing through it, kind of thing. But yeah, as far as the show goes, I think the show's in a great place, from the way the pacing is throughout the show, the way we've got the run of show and the different bits we do. I think it's fantastic.
No, I fully agree with you. And also, congratulations on getting. Let's have a think. What's his name? Runs kind of funny. My memory. Oh,
Greg Miller.
Greg Miller. You had Greg Miller on the PS.
We did.
Well done.
Did. Thank you.
Well
yeah,
done.
That was it's weird to hear well done because it was very lucky.
It's like a celebrity in the content creation world.
100%, and he's somebody I look up to for sure. And I was lucky enough to have Greg Miller be my Secret Santa in the Kind of Funny community Secret Santa thing. And part of my gift that he gave me was him coming on our show, and then I in turn was on PS I Love You in May.
Nice.
Which was a dream come true, because the reason I wanted to do PlayStation podcasting was from Podcast Beyond. So the fact that I got to sit down with Greg twice is invaluable. It's a memory I'll never forget. The moment I was done on PS I Love You, the moment we said goodbye from the Discord call because they had to go do other things, broke down in tears because I never thought that would happen. And yeah, it's amazing. And like Joe was on Podcast Beyond this year as well. Like we're making those moves. I hope we're in bigger shows to get our word out even more. Yeah, it's wild. This year's been pretty great for the trophy room.
Oh no, I'd agree. I mean, obviously at the end of the year, Spotify do their you get an end of year, don't you? So hopefully, Joe might share it.
I hope so. I hope so.
But no, getting Greg Miller on is a massive get. I mean, that kind of level of guest is big, and I bet you probably don't know because Joe sees it. I bet that show with Greg Miller on, I bet the downloads boomed. I bet.
We did get a big boost from that one. Funnily enough, we've had bigger shows after Greg, as terms of like downloads and whatnot.
That's good.
It's fantastic. That's exactly what you want. So every single time Joe comes or tells me some numbers, he's like, "Yeah, this did better than the Greg show." I'm like, "Wow, that's awesome. That means we're doing something right because people are sticking around."
Yeah, it does. It's incredible what you've built up. It's a really good.
Yeah.
And I think in the future you could be on the level of Sacred Symbols, and apparently that is now the official number one in the, isn't it, in the world, downloads and
It's
stuff and
something
all
like,
that.
yeah, it's up there. I know it's like one of the biggest Patreons, if not
It
the
is.
biggest Patreons.
It is, but I think you guys can get there one day. I'm not saying with the patrons. I'm just saying at the
Oh
level of
yeah,
being
yeah,
a big show, because
absolutely.
you're already some weeks. I look on the on Apple. You can there's a way you can access the charts and that on my laptop. And some weeks in the UK, you're very high up on the charts. That's
Yeah,
impressive. That
yeah.
is
I know for a while we were number one in Serbia.
nice.
We were the biggest PlayStation show in Serbia at some point. I don't know if we still are, but that's always something we laugh at because that's something we never thought a country would be number one in.
The problem is with Apple. I mean, you probably have some more analytics, but it's hard to track.
Yeah,
Your reviews and who's watching, or I mean, sorry, listed in which countries and matching it all up. It's quite difficult,
yeah,
from what I
yeah.
gather.
It definitely
It
is.
is. It is, but well done with that. I just wanted to touch on your, because you're the co-founder of 61Indie. So
Yeah.
what was the? It's a very clean website. I
Thank
haven't
you.
been on there. I've been exploring it recently.
Nice.
I have, and it's a good website. So what was the inspiration behind starting up 61Indie? Because it's not something everyone wants to do, because websites are quite daunting and expensive to get off the ground. And what was kind of inspiration into getting into doing the website? Because obviously you built up podcasts, you do streaming, you do everything. From what I
Yeah.
can see with Six
Yeah.
One Indie.
So earlier I mentioned that like the community events we would do for KF, that was the 61Indie crew. We were
Yeah.
called Kinda NYC. We were the New York area of Kinda Funny Best Friends, and
Okay. Yeah.
our names were Kinda NYC. We would go to PAX and we would do podcasts and cover games as Kinda NYC. And eventually we got tired of trying to explain what Kinda NYC was, and it was becoming too long to communicate. Like, we're not affiliated with Kind of Funny in a way. We're just fans. We want to cover games and do our own thing. And a year ago, we were like, let's just do a fresh start. Let's rebrand it and let's really go hard in on the games coverage thing while still doing all the community stuff on the side. And yes, 61Indie was born, where we uplift indie games and indie game developers. We sit down and chat with them on our YouTube for our Dev Convo series. We got a lot of really cool shows in the works that we're going to be doing over the course of the next year, which is very, very exciting because we just hit our year anniversary last week. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we're currently in the middle of indie game of the year, so I'm playing a lot of indies that I missed. Currently, like a couple trophies away from the Platinum and Chicory, which is a fantastic game.
Nice.
But yeah, indie games are special because I feel like we get the big budgeted AAA, quadruple A bangers. That's right, Joe.
Yeah.
But like indie games are where you truly get like those emotional, narrative driven, very cool stories and characters from a diverse background of game developers that have something to say. And for the most part, they say it very, very well, and they're fantastic. So we want to make sure that indie games get those same spotlights, because I don't know if anyone watched E3 this year. Indie games saved E3 this year. They were the only reason to watch any of those showcases during E3.
Yeah,
besides Microsoft's.
Yeah, Microsoft pretty much dominated
Mm-hmm.
the conferences, but there was loads of indie game shows on and around it, and the Indie Gamer covered a lot of them doing live streams. But
yeah,
it's good. It's good that there's an outlet that covers indie games. I haven't done my research. I don't know. Is there many other indie game websites about that could just cover indie games, or is there many out
yeah,
there?
there are some. We have we're friendly with the Uppercut crew. They
Okay.
They
Nice.
cover a lot of indies. Pass the Controller is another great podcast that covers a lot of indie games. There's a few of us out there, but I feel like we all run into the same problem and I think you mentioned it earlier, like a lot of people who play games, they're not into the indies. They want their big giant explosions and set pieces and stuff. So it's hard to get kind of the word out on indies. So I think it's anybody that goes out, and like I'm sure the indie gamer in chat is running to the same things. Like we want to make sure those indie games are shown off, but it's kind of like scratching and clawing of trying to get their eyes averted from the shiny new thing, which is like the exclusives for Microsoft, Nintendo, and PlayStation.
No, I totally agree with that because I play more indie games than I used to. And I'm going to say it because indie game will laugh because I talk about this game all the time. What remains of Edith Finch?
That is actually a game I have not played yet.
Really?
It's on my to-do list at some point this year in the next couple of months.
Well, do you have an Xbox? It's in Game Pass if you don't want to buy it.
I actually have the I bought the Annapurna collection. And it's in there. So like I have it. It's just too many games, Stubs. Way too many.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, he's already said LOL, but yeah, I do mention it a lot on different podcasts.
Yeah.
And a funny story, the Indie Games podcast was on. They had a quiz, and I bang on about it I just say it for a joke now. I put it in chat all the time. And he puts up a question. It's a photograph from a scene in What Remains of Edith Finch, and I missed it. And there was another one about Edith Finch, and I also missed that too. He said, you had your chance, Stubbs, and you missed it.
Oh, that feels bad.
Yeah. It's a great story, though. It's very good. When you do play it, it's got very powerful storytelling. It's very, very good.
I mean, yeah,
I loved it when I first played it.
That's the thing with those kind of games. I love those games. At 6-1-Indie, we coined the term sad boy games. And we have a shirt that says it because we love sad games that make us cry. It's just that takes a lot out of me mentally, those kind of games. So I can't, if I'm not feeling up to it, I'll push it off. And that's kind of what's happening with Edith Finch, why I haven't played it yet. Like I started Doki Doki Literature Club, and I had to stop after the first playthrough of it because I was like, whoa.
It is incredible when a developer can actually do that to somebody.
Yes.
They can actually draw emotion.
Absolutely.
That is what true storytelling is about. Whether it's happy or sad. A developer can actually do that to you. It's incredible.
I'll let everyone know what my indie game of the year is before it goes live on 6-1-Indie, but it is Emily's Away 3. That's a game that is no combat or whatever. You are on old school Facebook, and you're a high schooler, and it's all about creating relationships with your friends and dating this girl and becoming boyfriend girlfriend or girlfriend girlfriend, boyfriend boyfriend, and just experiencing the lifespan of that relationship. And I played it in one chunk earlier this year when it came out for like 5 hours or so, 4.5, 5 hours, whatever it took. At the end of that game, it's the third one, and they all sound the same, or they all end the same way. You are devastated. And I was sitting here at my computer at like 2 a.m. uncontrollably sobbing because I've never been so invested in these people. They felt real to me, which is a weird thing to say about a game, but like they felt real, like I knew these people. And like any game that can do that for me is I'm gonna love it because it takes me out of this reality and transports me somewhere else.
And that's exactly what you want from an indie game. I presume you said computer. Is that PC only, that game?
It is PC only because it's you have to like press your dialogue option, but then you actually type on the keyboard and your responses type out in the chat boxes. So it's like an active experience. So you typing will actually have the dialogue type along with you. And the creator, Kyle Seaney, I think it's Seaney. Oh God, Kyle Seeley. See, there we go. Kyle Seeley. He even created his own version of old school YouTube that looks exactly like YouTube from back when it started. And you can click on playlists of songs at the time. There's advertisements on the side to real products and real movies that are about to come out. Like, he went so in to make you feel like you transported back in time. And yeah, I felt like I was back in high school again. It was crazy.
That's a really, really good review of that game. It does sound very good. It does. Yeah. Obviously, I can't play. My laptop would probably just die if I tried to play a game on it. It's not very good. But I'm hoping to get a PC in January, February. Family members upgrading their PC. Mm-hmm. I'm buying it off him. So if all goes to plan, I should have one next year sometime. So I can try some of these indie games out that people like yourself and Indie Gamer keep telling me about.
Or get yourself a Steam Deck eventually, because that's
can't afford one of them. But.
I mean, yeah, me neither. But like, it's wild that we're getting another handheld that's going to be able to play literally thousands and thousands of indie games. It's wild.
It's true. It is. Welcome, Dreadpool. Thanks for stopping in. But yeah, it's I don't know whether it's your department in SIXONEINDIE. Have you had a lot of experience with the learning process of SEO to try and get your reviews and anything to do with a site high up on the search results? Have you dealt with that much, or is that someone else's department?
Yeah, it's something I don't delve into, but it's definitely something that we want to make sure try like alternative routes to kind of get noticed, where we'll go out of our way to pick even smaller indie games to get like a retweet from them, to like get the growing that way, and having like the developers on and talking to them, so then they can retweet the conversation, and then we can retain some there and kind of keep in the mind's eye. Like as of today, last night, Mike and I, who's the other co-founder of SIXONEINDIE, we did one of our new shows, show and tell, where we just play a game and we like talk over it like a oh my god, why can't I think of the comment?
Like a podcast,
like a commentary. Yeah, just like a small little commentary over it of a game called I Made a Game with Zombies in It, which was an old school Xbox arcade game. It just recently came back on Steam for free, and he was like, we have to play it, it's nostalgic. And we tweeted about it. It got retweeted by the creators of the game and a bunch of other, and we got like 40 retweets and 50 likes on it, which is huge, which is absolutely huge. Nice. Yeah, so we kind of go that route, very much on social media, I think, is the way to go, and make sure we're as consistent as possible with like reviews and something like eye-catching on the timeline that makes you want to read the review and check out the game and stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure all the back end stuff with SEO. I just know kind of what we do with like the social media side of things.
No, I mean, it's all a learning process. I mean, the problem is not being nasty with a lot of SEO. Mm-hmm. With a lot of the indie games, I don't think you're going to get a high rate of people looking for the games anyway.
Sure, yeah.
With certain titles. Yeah. Obviously, you've got your bigger indie games like, I'm going to say it now, Silksong.
Indie gamers waiting. Where is it? Where is it?
He's waiting for that.
Same thing with Sports Story. Where's Sports Story? Nintendo.
And many more. But that Silksong trailer, I've looked at it recently, but you don't get many indie games. I mean, the views you talk, last time I looked, it was at 1.2 million views, and that's an indie game.
Yeah.
That is. You don't get many that hit that kind of level, whatever views. You don't, but that would get high SEO, I would say. If anything to do with Silksong.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that would pop. That would.
Yeah. I'm also a big fan of going back and watching like old E3 shows and like people live reacting to them. And I just recently watched, I think, the Nintendo Direct from 2019 when Silksong was part of like a montage. And like, wow, that was 2 years ago and we still know nothing about it. Where is it?
But no, it's funny. It's like Indie Gamer says, when that Silksong will blow up the universe when it drops. He's not wrong.
Absolutely.
The hype for that game's unreal. It is.
Yeah.
So, like, do you actively look for writers and any to join 61Indie? Is that how you expand out, or should you just keep it to like the co-founders that are kind of part of the website, or would you look at expanding in the future?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We started with just the 3 of us on the East Coast and 2 of us on the West Coast who we've been
Nice.
podcasting with for a while.
Yeah.
But writing got to be a hard thing to do because during the pandemic, when we were mostly unemployed, it was easier to do
Yeah.
things. But now that things are opening back up and we're getting back to some sort of sense of normalcy for most of us, it kind of got hard to juggle everything. So we had to look for help, and we had a couple people reach out and ask if they could, write for just for themselves to get that experience and whatnot. And of course, we took them on. So we have Austin, Harry, Justin, who do a lot of really great writing, and we're always looking
That's good.
to bring writers on. And that's kind of the other reason why we just launched a Patreon for our first anniversary. We want to be able to compensate them because we know how tough it is for writers out there looking for work and getting paid for it. So we want to be able to have something to compensate them with, because reviewing games is a lot of time. You got to play the game and then write it up and everything. Like it takes a lot. So we want to make sure if we move forward and add somebody or have more people come on and write, we want to be able to actually compensate them for it. So probably not for a while until that kind of gets picked up. But yeah, we definitely want a ton of people to come on.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. I mean, it's obviously it's difficult because obviously to try and get the right people who want to write and then they kind of be consistent, because you've got to remember, like, you're not paying them; they're doing that their own time, aren't they?
Yep.
But you can do it if you've got the right website and the right drive. You seem like you've got a good website going, a good product. You do.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, one day I hope I make $1 from all this video game content creation. That'd be fantastic.
Exactly. Because obviously some people start at websites thinking, I'm going to be the next IGN, I'm going to be a millionaire, and then eventually they realise how the realities of it ain't true. But yours is more unique because it's based on around indie games. It is a hard game to be in websites, but like Patreon would definitely help you. Patreon, for sure. If you've got the right base and you build up your base, can work to even help pay for servers or hosting space, etc. It can help, it can.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, because I'm currently I went to college for education to be a teacher. I've been substitute teaching for over a decade, and over the pandemic, when I did not work at all for the entire time, because as a bigger person, if I get it, it's pretty much a death sentence. So I chose to stay home. During that time, I realized just how burnt out I am from teaching, and I'm trying to actively get out of it. So the reason I bring this up is a couple weeks ago, since it was the anniversary, the email fee for our email for the site hit, and it was like $100. And I had $12 in my checking account, and I was like, "Oh no, this is not good." Luckily, we had some saved from all like the Twitch subs that have gotten over the year, so that at least covered it. So I was very fortunate. But yeah, I Patreon to help with all those fees that I think a lot of people who don't create stuff don't understand or don't realize just how much other money people pay to do for like a passion project. That was something like when I had my own podcast once. I was like, oh, I'm just going to record audio, put it out, and we're good to go. Not realizing I would have to like pay for a hosting service or a hosting place, and, pay for artists to create the artwork and whatnot. Like, it was a lot.
Yeah, there is a lot goes into it. People don't realize a lot of what goes into websites. A lot of the back end, our email, web hosting, etc.
Yeah,
it's it's a lot of money that goes into it, but in the end, I mean, you could build up a nice Patreon. It's just if you offer obviously value, being a Patreon is you offer like certain, you know what you want about with Patreon, you do, because obviously on the PS Trophy room you've got it, and you know you add more tiers and you get different values, don't you? You do, to support, you do.
So we have a tier on the trophy room for the post show. Every week we do a post show. I think it's $1 or a few bucks. And this week the post show was filled with me and Joe going back and forth about Bloodborne remake, and it got heated. I cursed at him a bunch. It was all good.
To see if it happens, because was that confirmed or is it one of these rumors?
It's just something that it's Blue Point is like hint hint wink wink nudge nudge. They're doing another remake. And Joe desperately wants it to be Bloodborne, and I'm on the side of things. I know, right? Shocker. I'm on the side of things where Bloodborne is still readily accessible for most people to play, and it's not. I mean, I just literally platinumed it a couple weeks ago as a surprise.
Yes, congratulations!
Thank you. And it ran fine. It played great. To me, a remake has to be an older game that needs new life or is stuck on an older console, and that was our whole debate on the post show this week.
Remake, because there's a big difference between remake and remaster. Remaster is literally just making the graphics look more beautiful.
Yep, or like remake, higher FPS and stuff. Yeah,
remake, you've got to actually
all
change
new assets
parts of the
and
game.
Everything.
Yeah. Oh, indie gamer, bring Bloodborne to PC.
Yeah, do it. I want to see Kratos in Bloodborne. I want to play as Kratos. I want to play as Mario in Bloodborne. The mods would be crazy.
They would be, yeah. They would be. So, if you've got any advice, say to somebody who wants to be a podcaster or get into writing or website, what kind of advice would you say to somebody who wanted to try them kind of content creation avenues?
Yeah, a couple things that I've learned over the past couple of years of doing it would be, don't be afraid to take a break. You are more important. If you're not feeling it, then the stuff that you put out is not going to be to the quality that you want it to be. So make sure you take care of yourself. If you need a week break, you take a week break. Definitely bounce ideas off of other people. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Google, it will only take you so far, but listening to shows like this where you're hearing from content creators that have done it, to actually learn from them and learn what to do and what not to do is a great resource. The biggest thing is just make sure you take care of yourself. Like, that is very early on. I was doing too much and I got burnt out very quickly. And I feel
burnout killer.
I feel like that bleeds into the show itself. And I would, at the end of the show, be like, Joe, I'm sorry. I wasn't on my A game. I did really, really, really poor. I'm sorry. And of course he would never agree with me, but I know in my heart that it wasn't as good as I should have been. So it is a passion project. You're doing it because you love it. You love talking about whatever you're talking about. You love creating whatever you're creating about. But don't let that overtake you completely. There are other things that you need to be healthy and happy and do those things for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, because it's like because I see certain people like that do loads of podcasts, and I've actually just hinted to them, just be careful doing that many shows. You'll eventually burn out, and just because I've seen it happen. I have, and some people could completely disappear from podcasting completely and be like, "F this, I'm done."
Which is a shame.
Exactly, it is.
And then it always sucks when you see people that are doing good stuff and they're gone completely. And then this is just a jab at celebrities who think podcasting is a great thing or an easy thing to do. Like, celebrities come on and they get like multi-million-dollar sponsorships right out of the gate before they even record a podcast. Like, come on,
but
get out of here.
It's like podcasters like do them all year usually. They have breaks on and off, but these guys come in, get multi-million-dollar contracts, and they do like 15, 20 episodes per series, and it's not all year they do it, and it's like what big money.
Must be nice.
I know exactly.
We're down here clawing for attention, and they're over there buying like another Lamborghini just because.
Yeah, and there's podcasts are shoved straight on the Apple homepage and all that.
Mm-hmm.
On all the TV radio stations, listen to my latest podcast or tweets it out, and boom, overnight, millions of downloads.
Exactly. It
would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would be. Jago was saying just on that point, I used to do 3 podcasts a week and I got burnt out. Definitely, and he was definitely starting to feel like work. So he was out. So
yeah,
he does 1 show a week now. He does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely don't get to that point because you obviously want to do it. So make sure you accommodate so it isn't. You don't get over encumbered. You don't have different things bouncing back and forth because editing takes a long time, especially if there's audio issues and whatnot. That's something I had to learn on the fly too. Is like how to, silence my breathing or quiet my coughs or sync up the audio if you're doing separate audio tracks. That was the longest thing in the world to learn, and I still don't understand how one audio slowly goes out of sync as the episode goes on. Audio drift is the worst. I don't know if you've ever had to deal with that, Stubz, but it is awful.
No, because I haven't. Because quite often, sometimes, like on the PS Trophy Room, you slot in interviews, and then Joe will go, "Oh, I'm back now."
Yeah.
So you can tell it's obviously edited, but
yeah,
all my shows currently they're just live and raw, like it's live as it is.
Oh, that's
but
great.
I've not had syncing issues with videos, but I'm trying to get into making a couple of more videos. I'm going to try and do it. Now I'm having a little break for midweek gaming. I'm going to try and see if I can get some videos out. So I may experience that audio syncing.
Yeah, audio
you're on about.
Audio drift sucked. And that's why I haven't edited a podcast in a while because it would take me like 2 weeks to get it fixed. It would be a thing like for 40 minutes or so out of like an hour and a half, 45-minute podcast. We're totally in sync. Everything sounds great. But then at like the 40-minute mark, I think I figured it out because everyone's PCs run at a different speed or something like that. I'm not very tech savvy. But then their audio slowly starts to speed up. So I would ask a question, and before I would finish my question, he would answer it in the audio tracks. So I'd have to have to cut out the audio and space it back out every single time that happened, and it would just be a very long process. So yeah, audio drift is a thing to look out for if you're doing separate audio tracks. But luckily, if you do them here like on StreamYard as Stubz are or is, we do a Zencaster now. We discovered that one that works wonderfully. Or like just take the audio from the video if you want to do it that way. Those are way better. So that way the audio is already all together. And so you don't even have to worry about it.
On StreamYard I can directly like download the audio for the podcast feed. It asks you, do you want to download video or do you want to download the audio? But there is a higher tier package where you can actually, I don't know why you'd want to, but you can download each guest into different audio tracks. You can, if you wanted to, you can.
Yeah,
I don't do that.
That has its benefits. Like I mentioned, if someone's like a little too breathy or there's a lot of background noise, you can go in and like mess with it and take it out to clear it up. But yeah, and in my experience, I'd much rather just leave it as is. If people have an issue with something in the background, I'm sorry, but most of the time people are out there to listen to you talk about what you want to talk about for the most part.
Yeah, that's true. That is, it's very true. But yeah, you had some very, very good advice there, especially with the burnout, because a lot of people don't actually mention the burnout problems with podcasting. It's quite a big thing. Is
Yeah.
Some people get popular, all of a sudden every podcast wants you. Sometimes I've seen people on shows 4 or 5 times a week, and
Whew.
I don't know how some people can do it, but it's just a thing to watch out for. And you're the first person to mention the watch out for burnout, which I appreciate that. So hopefully you can help some people if they maybe feeling that, not told anybody. So that could help a lot. It could.
Yeah, and I think what adds to the burnout, which is maybe another piece of advice to just mention, is it doesn't matter how many people listen to your stuff. Just make the best possible stuff you can make, and eventually those numbers will come if that is something you're worried about. Because if you are solely focused on chasing numbers, that burnout level is, think of it like a rage meter in like God of War, right? Like you're aiming to hit these certain numbers and they're not hitting, so you're getting angry and angry and angrier, and then your content suffers, and then the burnout hits, and then you're just done with it all. So don't worry about views, worry about putting in the work and the effort and the content wise, and those stuff will come. Control what you can control, pretty much.
Yeah, no, it's good advice, because that's kind of how Joe echoed it about views and what how many views you get, what watch time, etc. With downloads as well.
Yeah,
got to focus on it, because like it's like you say you can have a load of podcasts and then say your podcast picks up, then all your, say someone likes it, they can go and binge all your previous podcasts or your past 10 podcasts, and it can soon pick up. It can.
Absolutely.
It can. And obviously yours has.
Yeah.
But you're doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
You are for both shows, but so, and the website, because you also do a podcast on there, don't you?
Yep.
I'm trying to catch. There's that many podcasts I'm going to listen to.
Yeah, that is.
I love developer interviews, so I'm going to be listening to some of them.
Absolutely, they're fantastic. I am also a big culprit of that myself. There's so much out there that I can't listen.
That many.
I can't listen to all my lovely friends who I love and adore their stuff, because if I have to focus on one thing at a time. I'm not the type of person that can play a video game with a podcast on, because I want to play a game and experience the soundtrack and the music and everything on there. So me listening to other people talk while I'm playing a game is just not a thing that I can do.
No, I understand that, because a lot of time you can miss certain parts of the game, especially if it's audio dialogue.
Absolutely.
If you're playing Forza Horizon, I don't think it really matters, because it's a racing game.
Yeah, it depends on the game. Yeah, like I put in over 100 hours of MLB The Show this year, so there's definitely been some times I've had things on in the background. I forgot. Oh yeah, the SIXONEINDIE podcast. We have IndieCast, which is our indie game focused one, where we talk about the indie games we've been playing and some indie game news. That is now weekly. And then we do. Good. Yeah, we're going to be doing it weekly now. But and the first of the month or third of the month, we got to figure out which one is which. We do a show called Dollar Slice, which is our sit down conversational show, where we just hang out and talk about what's going on in our lives, the movies we watch, the TV stuff, and just kind of hang out. And lately I've been like pulling a game, and we game out and playing a game. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the game. It sounds gruesome, so
okay,
be prepared. Kill Your Babies. Have you ever heard of that game?
No.
So
it sounds like a game.
It sounds awful.
My son watches these YouTubers, Jelly and all them.
Oh, okay.
Slogo, man, and they play a lot of kids games, and sometimes they'll play in this game where you're like an adult, but you there's babies there, and
I've seen that one.
I don't get what game it's called. It sounds something like what they'd play. I might be wrong.
But the Kill Your Babies is a game where you have a list of, it could be on anything you want, but the ones that I enjoy doing is like you have a list of 30, 35 of the best video games of all time. and somebody else picks without seeing the logos or anything, like numbers. So let's say you pick 7, and I flip 7 over, and it's God of War 2018. So you can either save that one or kill this other number that is face down.
I get it now. I get
that. And so like it's the choice in your head is like, do I save God of War, which I really love, but if I do that, I'm killing like The Last of Us. So and then it goes all the way down. So then at the end, there's only one left, and that is the one video game that you have for the rest of your life, kind of situation. Like that's the only game that exists. That always gets heated and fun. Yeah, we've done it with like cartoons and candies and stuff like that. So it's a good time.
No, that sounds fun. It does. It's especially when you ask people, and you know the fact that it's going to be 2 of their most favorite games ever, and you're having to make that choice.
Yeah, I do highly, and where I found this game out, another huge inspiration to me is I love Easy Allies, and that's where I found, and they played that game over there, and it was just so much fun. So you guys can go just search Kill Your Babies and Easy Allies, and you can go watch some of them go through it. It gets heated very quickly.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
I need to see this. I do. But that sounds good. You've got a variety of podcasts going on there. Yeah. Don't get burned out though. Be careful.
I'm at a good spot now. But yeah, there are times where it gets a little too much. But yeah, I know my limits, and luckily Joe and everyone at 6-1-Indie are good at giving everyone some time.
No, that's good to hear. I mean, thanks for coming on. I've learned a lot off you about 6-1-Indie and the PS Trophy Room, and about some fun stories that you had, especially the one about your mum playing Nintendo. I thought that was great. That was a nice story to share. Thanks for coming on. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, on Twitter, PSN, and on Xbox, you can find me at Mr. K-Step. You can find everything PlayStation, or the Trophy Room and PlayStation Podcast, at PS Trophy Room on Twitter and wherever you listen to podcasts, and the Trophy Room PlayStation Podcast on YouTube, where the video version goes. Everything on the 6-1-Indie side you can find at 61indie.com. That's SIXONEINDIE. And it's the same spelling on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all the things. We just launched a Patreon for 6-1-Indie. Trophy Room also has a Patreon, which you can find on our Twitter handles. And next week for 6-1-Indie is when we are doing our extra live stream on November 20th, where we'll be gaming for 24 straight hours, raising money for children's hospitals. So go check us out, twitch.tv/61indie next weekend.
Very good. Thanks for coming on. Please subscribe and check out all the podcasts and everything Mr. K-Step related. It's all good. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Been a very good guest. Yeah, it's been a fun talk. I've learned a lot, but I fully appreciate you coming on.
Anytime.
But yeah, thanks. Everyone, if you want to subscribe, please subscribe. If you want to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, please download and leave a 5-star review. It's not as good as what Mr. Badbit would say, but I've got to get a sales pitch down for this podcast.
It comes with time. It comes with time.
It will. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and I'll see you all soon.